in a chilling twist of fate, a police officer's greatest fear materializes: the wrongful arrest. Sergeant Calloway finds himself ensnared in the gravest blunder of his professional life. The sun hangs majestically in the azure sky, casting its warm glow upon the serene streets of Brookfield, a meticulously maintained neighborhood nestled in Ohio. It is a locale where the sidewalks boast meticulously trimmed hedges, where the morning joggers glide in harmonious rhythm, and where police patrols are a common sight yet seldom required. Sergeant Brian Calloway glides along, one hand firmly gripping the wheel while the other languidly rests on the radio. 2 decades on the job, and he has witnessed everything. Thus, he reassures himself. He carries a certain notoriety. Unyielding, straightforward, and intolerant of excuses, he holds steadfast to his own interpretation of justice. In his gaze, those who seem out of place in specific locales inevitably draw a second glance. In the distance, he catches sight of her, a woman of color in her mid-40s, exuding strength with a toned physique and a confident gait. She jogs with a steady rhythm, earbuds nestled in, immersed in her own realm. High-end running footwear, stylish sports apparel. She appears as though she is meant to be here. Yet, there is an undeniable quality about her that disturbs his peace. Perhaps it is the way she avoids looking his way. The sight of a police cruiser gliding by often prompts a nod of recognition from passers-by. She does not. Perhaps it's the sleek silver Tesla she jogged by, resting in the driveway. Did she just arrive from that place, or is she surveying the homes? Perhaps it is merely an illusion, a fleeting thought that holds no weight. Yet Calloway comes to a stop. The tires emit a satisfying crunch against the pavement as he makes his exit. He rests a steady hand on his duty belt, not grasping for anything, merely ensuring it captures attention. His gaze fixes on her as she decelerates, pulling one earbud free. She breathes heavily yet with a sense of control, brushing a bead of sweat from her brow. She seems hardly affected by his presence. "Is there an issue, officer?" she inquires, her breath still uneven. "Where are you coming from?" His voice carries a steady cadence, imbued with the quiet authority he has honed through the years. She blinks, her gaze drifting up the street before she responds. "Residence. I'm about to embark on my run." "Where is home?" She tilts her head ever so slightly, a subtle change flickering across her expression. "A few blocks further down. Do you have your identification with you?" Behold, it stands before us. The instant transforms. Her expression stiffens slightly, the relaxed demeanor in her stance becoming more rigid. What purpose does it serve? Calloway raised his chin ever so slightly, his gaze fixed intently upon her. He is not fond of being interrogated. "I simply need to ensure that everything aligns perfectly." She lets out a sharp breath, her hands resting firmly on her hips. "You halted your vehicle to approach a woman running in the bright light of day. Is it because you perceive me as a danger?" He remains silent, offering no affirmation. Yet, he refrains from uttering a denial as well. She lets out a brief, amused exhale, her hand moving toward her phone. "Do you realize something? Perhaps we should reach out to an individual who truly upholds the law with integrity." Calloway advances with purpose, not with aggression, yet with intention. "Madam, I shall not inquire once more. Please present your identification." Her fingers curled tightly around her phone. Calloway observations? In his mind, the situation has reached a new level of intensity. Yet, he remains oblivious to the fact that he is on the brink of committing the gravest error of his professional life. The street lies in silence. All that can be heard are the sporadic whispers of leaves and the soft hum of far-off traffic. For Simone Daniels, the universe has contracted to the figure before her, the officer positioned uncomfortably near, the intensity of his gaze bearing down like an invisible weight. She is familiar with this routine, aware of the pattern, and understands the consequences that unfold when someone of her kind dares to confront someone of his stature. Yet, she is also aware of her rights. She states calmly that there is no obligation for her to carry ID while jogging. Calloway shifts, subtly adjusting his stance. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Her voice resonates with a serene steadiness. However, Calloway perceives the situation in a contrasting light. For him, it embodies defiance. He casts a fleeting look about him, The street lies largely deserted with only a handful of houses cloaked in drawn blinds. A solitary figure or perhaps two linger in their yards, observing quietly, yet none dare to intervene. "I'm looking into some suspicious activity," he states, his voice sharp and precise. "Which endeavor?" Calloway hesitates. He was unprepared for such a formidable challenge. "As you sprinted by a residence boasting a luxury vehicle in the driveway," he remarked, as though that alone could validate his reasoning. Simone's laughter rings out, yet it carries no trace of mirth. "Are you referring to the Tesla? Is jogging past a parked car really considered a crime now?" Calloway's jaw clenches. "You are choosing not to reveal your identity. I will not tolerate harassment. That term, persecuted." Calloway senses a fire igniting within his chest, his authority challenged openly, under the scrutiny of unfamiliar eyes. He advances a step nearer. "It seems you are putting up a barrier against my inquiry." Simone's expression becomes resolute. "I am yielding to nothing. You are misusing your authority, and you are fully aware of it." Her hand twitches near her phone once more, and Calloway acts without a second thought. He responds. He seizes her wrist. The transition from words to action unfolds swiftly. In one fleeting instant, she stands resolute, unwavering in her stance. In the next, he seizes her arm, twisting it behind her back, the glint of metal cuffs catching the sunlight. "What the hell?" she shouts, fighting against his hold. "You're under arrest for obstruction," Calloway states flatly, as if reciting lines from a well-worn script. Onlookers pause, their gazes fixed in wonder. A man sits on his porch, retrieving his phone to capture the moment on video. A woman stands across the street, her gaze fixed and unyielding, as if time itself has paused around her. "You're making a mistake," Simone grits out, struggling to maintain her composure. Calloway adjusts the cuffs, unfazed by the gazes directed his way. "Cooperation was the path you should have chosen." Simone lets out a sharp breath through her nostrils. Though her pulse reverberates in her ears, her voice remains unwavering as she articulates her thoughts. "You have no idea who I truly am." Calloway remains indifferent. Yet, he ought to. As the impending collapse of his world looms, the cold steel of the cuffs bites into Simone's wrists, a testament to Calloway's unyielding grip as he forces her arms behind her back. Her chest rises and falls, a delicate balance of control and tension. She has walked this path previously, not in these particular restraints, not at this precise moment. Yet, she is familiar with this sensation, the burden of misused authority. Calloway remains oblivious to the issue at hand. He envisions a victory. Yet another suspect has been dealt with decisively. Yet another instance where he departs with a sense of mastery over the situation. Yet, the world surrounding him is in flux. A modest gathering begins to take shape. A figure on the opposite side of the street remains poised, his device unwavering, immortalizing each fleeting moment. A woman, poised beside her mailbox, raises her voice in a call. She was simply idle. Calloway turns a blind eye to them. He activates his radio. "Send forth. A female suspect aged between 10 and 15 is currently refusing to disclose her identity, arranging for transportation." Simone chuckles softly to herself. "So, you genuinely believe this will turn out in your favor, do you?" Calloway remains silent. There is no necessity for him to do so. The law stands firmly in his favor, or at least that has been his unwavering conviction. A different voice pierces the atmosphere. "Pardon me, officer. What is happening in this situation?" A man in his 50s, impeccably attired, exuding an undeniable authority that starkly contrasts with the surrounding crowd. With his suit jacket draped casually over one shoulder, his gaze shifts between Simone and Calloway. Calloway remains unyielding. "Kindly take a step back, sir." The man remains still. He shifts his gaze to Simone, then to the cuffs, and finally returns his attention to Calloway. "I inquired about the situation at hand. She was proving to be uncooperative," Calloway states, his voice resolute yet faltering. "If only a little." The man inclines his head slightly. "Unyielding." Simone lets out a sharp breath, her head shaking in disbelief. "He interrupted my jog, requested identification. I informed him that I had no need to bear one. At this moment we find ourselves here." The man casts a glance over his shoulder at Calloway. "Did you take her into custody? Is it for jogging? She steadfastly declined to cooperate with the investigation. The man's countenance shifts to shadow. Indeed, it is. Calloway senses the change in the air. The atmosphere carries a distinct heaviness. He perceives the gaze of those around him. The manner in which the man before him exhibits no fear is striking. A sleek black SUV glides to a stop. Windows adorned with a subtle hue. Plates devoid of any markings. The type of vehicle that Calloway recognizes is undoubtedly owned by someone of influence. The driver's door swings open, and Captain Ronald Briggs, Calloway's commanding officer, emerges, his expression a storm of anger. The crowd shifts ever so slightly as Briggs advances, his gaze fixed intently on Calloway. The air is heavy with anticipation. Calloway straightens, striving to uphold his facade of control, yet an unsettling sensation lingers beneath the surface. Briggs halts a short distance away, his gaze shifting between Calloway and Simone, who remains restrained by handcuffs. His jaw clenches, and then he utters two words that strike Calloway with the force of a sledgehammer. Release her from her restraints. Calloway's eyes flutter momentarily. Excuse me, sir. Briggs advances with purpose. I commanded. Release her from the cuffs. At this moment, Calloway pauses, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. This is perplexing. His superior is commanding him to set a suspect free. Briggs shifts his gaze towards Simone. I deeply apologize, ma'am. Are you injured? Simone gently shakes her head, a slow, deliberate motion. I am well. I am well. Calloway feels a heavy weight settle in his stomach. Briggs lets out a breath through his nostrils before pivoting back to face Calloway. Are you aware of the person you just restrained with those handcuffs? The street lies in a hushed stillness. Calloway swallows. His hold on the cuffs relaxes ever so slightly. Excuse me, sir. She declined to reveal her identity. Briggs advances, his voice lowering. She simply has no need to. Calloway's heart races. The sport utility vehicle. The intensity of their gazes is palpable. Briggs's anger transcends mere frustration. He is seething with anger. Simone observes him intently. Her voice carries a soothing tranquility. Regulated. I am known as Chief Simone Daniels. Calloway ceases to draw breath. She allows it to linger, allow him to process, and then she adds, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. And you have just apprehended your superior. The impact of those words strikes with the force of a freight train. Calloway feels a parched sensation in his mouth. He senses the gaze of each individual in that throng. The cameras are capturing every moment. The cameras are capturing every moment. The neighbors murmur softly among themselves. The moment collapsed around him. Yet this tale is far from finished. Not at this moment. Calloway comes to a standstill. The words landed with the force of a blow, leaving him frozen in place, hands still gripping the cuffs, mind racing to comprehend the reality of the moment. Chief Simone Daniels. His superior. The woman he just humiliated in broad daylight, treated as if she were a suspect, as though she posed some kind of threat, holds the highest rank in the department. Briggs's voice slices through the stillness. I instructed you to remove her cuffs. At this moment, Calloway acts decisively this time. His hands tremble ever so slightly as he unfastens the cuffs, retreating a step while Simone gently massages her wrists. The crimson stains lingering evoke a sense of nausea within him. The audience holds its breath, the atmosphere crackling with anticipation. The devices continue to capture audio. The man in the suit observes with an expression that sends a shiver of near shame down Calloway's spine. Simone inhales deeply, maintaining her composure, yet a keen intensity flickers in her gaze that Calloway cannot overlook. She shifts her shoulders with a fluid motion before pivoting to meet his gaze head-on. Do you believe that your badge grants you the authority to halt anyone at your discretion? Her voice remains calm, yet it slices through the atmosphere with the precision of a sharp blade. Do you believe that jogging while being black constitutes a crime? Calloway parts his lips, only to seal them once more. He possesses nothing. There is no need for justification. There is no justification that won't come across as feeble. Simone angles her head, observing him intently. Today I observed you as you arrived at a decision. I observed as you concluded that I had no place in this realm. Your ignorance of my identity was all it took for you to cast me as a suspect. Calloway shifts his weight, his face flushed, yet he remains locked in an unwavering gaze. Simone draws nearer. her voice softening, meant only for his ears. "Your hands found their way to me. You brought me to shame. You were prepared to toss me into the confines of a squad car for no reason at all. And were I anyone else, stripped of this uniform, you can envision precisely how this might have concluded." Calloway swallows. His hands tremble restlessly at his sides. She inclines her body ever so slightly. "To how many others have you extended this action?" That question strikes him with a force unmatched, for the answer is far from nothing. Briggs enters the scene, his voice resolute. "Sergeant Calloway, you are hereby relieved of your duties until further notice. Relinquish your badge and firearm." The words pierce like a sharp blade. Calloway's fingers linger near his belt, a silent battle unfolding between his pride and the stark reality before him. The moment elongates, heavy with the burden of unvoiced thoughts. With deliberate care, he unfastens his badge. He gently deposits it into Briggs' outstretched hand, then his weapon at his side. His heart pounds fiercely within his chest, yet he compels his expression to remain impassive. Simone observes him intently for an extended moment. Her expression reveals no satisfaction, no trace of smugness. Instead, it carries a weighty, profound disappointment. She tilts her head slightly, releasing a slow breath. "It is imperative that you reflect deeply upon your own actions, Sergeant, for from this day forward, nothing will remain the same." Calloway remains silent. What words could he possibly utter? The burden of his decisions presses down on him as he takes a step back. The lens remains active. The audience continues to murmur. Yet, what lingers in his mind more than the loss of his badge is something far deeper. Today, he came to understand that he hadn't merely erred. He revealed himself, and there's no turning back from that. Calloway remains in his car, his gaze fixed on the steering wheel. The engine has been silenced. His hands lie on his lap, fingers gently curled, as though they still recall the burden of the cuffs he secured around her wrists. His badge and gun have vanished. His career teetered on the edge of oblivion. The atmosphere hangs heavy, oppressive. At last, he raises his gaze, observing the neighborhood as it reveals itself before him. The familiar quiet street, the meticulously trimmed hedges, the houses that appeared so ordinary merely an hour prior. Yet now, all seems transformed. He observes Chief Simone Daniels positioned by her SUV, engaged in conversation with Briggs. Her body language exudes restraint, yet a fierce spark ignites within her gaze that he finds impossible to overlook. He observes the bystander's gaze upon her, not with suspicion, nor with fear, but with a sense of reverence, as if she embodies the essence of leadership. The burden of his actions sinks heavily within him. The burden of his actions sinks heavily within him. After years of unwavering confidence, Calloway finds himself in a rare moment of uncertainty. He has taken great pride in his identity as a man of the law. He held a conviction of his own fairness, convinced that his actions were only taken when absolutely necessary, and that his instincts were infallibly correct. Yet, what of today? Today his instincts led him astray, and it cost him everything he held dear. At last, Briggs concludes his discourse and strides over to his vehicle. Simone pivots, her gaze meeting Calloway's through the glass of his windshield. She maintains his gaze for an extended moment. She shakes her head slowly, just once before she climbs into her SUV and drives away. Calloway observes the fading glow of the taillights as they vanish into the distance. His chest is constricted. He releases a breath, his fingers tightening around the steering wheel. A year prior, he would have crafted a rationale for the events that unfolded, persuading himself of his own righteousness, viewing her merely as another individual causing a disturbance. Yet now, at this moment, he remains unaware. And that is what terrifies him the most. Authority is not solely derived from a badge or a uniform. At times, it arises from a deep understanding of your identity and the principles you uphold. Calloway believed he held the reins, convinced he grasped the essence of justice. Yet, justice transcends the mere possession of power. The focus lies in the manner of its utilization. How often has this occurred to those lacking a title for protection? How many individuals have found themselves in handcuffs for no reason whatsoever? This narrative transcends the tale of a single corrupt officer faltering in judgment. A system exists that permits such mistakes to persist unabated. The pressing inquiry remains: when will it come to an end? And who is prepared to take action?